Welcome to the Ultrahuman experience. This session is free for you for the complete experience. Please download the Ultrahuman app.
Good evening. Welcome to Bedtime Stories. My name is Elizabeth Seda. Tonight's story is special. It's about my favorite holiday, the festival where the leaves have changed into beautiful hues. The weather makes you curl up in front of the fire with a warm drink, and you cook food for the soul. A time where traditions are old and memories are new, because each year brings something special. The day begins with the morning sunlight streaming in through the wide, airy windows of my kitchen, and the brightness of the crisp fall day makes me smile. Lifting my cup of tea to my lips, I breathe in the peppermint-scented steam, enjoying the morning calm before the big holiday celebration begins. It's Thanksgiving Day, and I have so much to give thanks for. My mother and father are still asleep in the guest bedroom upstairs, and my sister and her husband will come by later in the day to share the Thanksgiving meal with all of us. Soon, the rest of my family will come down to help me prepare everything for the feast. For right now, I take this quiet moment for myself to savor the beginning of this joyful day. The weather outside is beautiful. The day is crisp and chilly, the sky clear and cloudless. It's a perfect day to hike outside in a thick fleece sweater, or stay inside a warm kitchen filled with the smells of cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves. The bright azure of the sky outside is a striking contrast to the warm fall colors that still adorn the ring of trees outside the kitchen windows. Even though it's late November, the sugar maples and birches are still proudly displaying the last of the reds and golds of fall. The sturdy maple trees are crowned by clusters of broad, bright red and orange leaves, each leaf shaped like a five-pointed star. Slim white birch trees show off their pale golden foliage, their branches swaying gently in the light breeze of the morning. The dark green pine needles from the evergreens behind them are a rich canvas against which the red and gold fall leaves stand out like fireworks in a night sky. I take a sip of my peppermint tea as I look out the window in the clear morning and notice a flash of brick red wings in a nearby birch tree. It's a cardinal bird, gathering a few twigs to add to its nest in the yard, making it extra cozy before winter. I know a kindred spirit when I see one. The little red bird is taking steps to provide for its family, make a comfortable and warm nest, and share a meal of berries and other forest finds with their partner, just like we will do on this Thanksgiving Day, as a family, all together. I turn away from the window with a smile and gather my cutting board, utensils, ingredients, and cookware on the kitchen counter to begin to prepare the big meal of the day. Like life, everything has its time and place when you prepare a Thanksgiving meal. You start with what needs the most attention and work your way down from there. Before you realize it, the whole meal is ready and all the details are taken care of. My mother taught me to always begin with the turkey, since it takes the longest amount of time to cook and needs the most space. Every Thanksgiving I clean it, season it, get it ready, and then leave it in the warm oven for a few hours, while everyone gathers in the kitchen to help prepare the other dishes, talk, and spend time together. In a large, dark blue ceramic pan, I baste the turkey with a mixture of melted butter, rosemary, white wine, and herbs, mostly sage, but also thyme and rosemary. The melted butter and herbs fill the air with their earthy, delicious smells, and the heat of the oven makes the kitchen feel warm and cozy in the morning chill. While I'm carefully preparing the turkey, my mother comes into the kitchen with her silver hair braided back neatly, eager to help me cook the day's big meal. We exchange hugs, and I pour her a cup of peppermint tea. Every year, my mother makes the stuffing for the turkey, following the recipe handed down to her from her mother and from her mother's mother before that. The recipe is part of our family's heritage. It is more than just a tasty blend of tart apples, plump golden raisins, and toasted breadcrumbs. Every holiday that we make it together, we add a few more memories to the mixture. More shared laughter, stories, and love for each other. We all enjoy the flavors of Thanksgiving, of course. But what I love the most about the day is the tradition of spending it together. Preparing the big meal together lets us spend time with the people we love, sharing our memories of past years and hopes for the future. My mother mixes up the stuffing as I dress the turkey, and together we slide the heavy ceramic pan into the oven. By this point, my father is awake and comes down into the kitchen to join us. Every year since I was small, my father would sit at the table on Thanksgiving morning with us and peel a heap of earthy brown potatoes. We'll use these for a side dish of garlicky, creamy mashed potatoes that pairs so well with the turkey. This was one of my favorite dishes growing up, and now it's one of my son's favorites as well. My son idolizes his grandfather and loves to sit next to him, listening intently to his many stories. I can't blame him. My father tells the best stories in his deep, rolling voice, impersonating every character's mannerisms, accents, and voice like an actor. My father sits down at the kitchen table with us and eats a slice of cranberry orange bread that my daughter baked last night for breakfast. Before he begins to peel this year's potato pie, sure enough, as soon as he sits down at the counter, my son shows up, still wearing his blue and yellow lizard print pajamas, eager to spend time with his grandfather. I slide him a thick slice of cranberry orange bread for breakfast. Before he even takes his first bite, he asks, "Grandpa, will you tell us the festival story?" The festival story is one of our family's traditions. Every year, my father tells the story of how he and my mother met, and my son never gets tired of hearing it. The story begins right around Thanksgiving time, when the fall leaves were just beginning to drop off the trees, and the birds were getting ready for winter. My father was a curly-haired college student with round glasses and was coming home to visit his family for the holidays in a small town in New England where he grew up. Every year, he and his family would spend a day at the local fall festival. There, they would drink hot apple cider, admire the biggest local pumpkins, and watch the pageant. The fall festival was the town's pride and joy, a 5-day celebration of the local farms and apple orchards, hosted on a big outdoor stage strung with lights. There were dances, comedy skits, and prizes given out for the biggest vegetables and finest flowers. But the crowning event was the pageant. Each season, the local theater company would hire dancers from the nearby city to perform in the festival's pageant. One year, they happened to hire a new head ballerina, my mother. My mother was graceful, talented, and beautiful, with her long, dark hair, elegant dancer's posture, and expressive movements. My father says he took one look at her dressed up as a bumblebee for the opening act and fell instantly and forever in love with her. She was the most stunning bumblebee he had ever seen. And he went back every day to watch her dance in the pageant, eagerly anticipating her solo number. Finally, on the last day of the pageant, just after her closing performance, he brought her a bouquet of white fall roses. Summoning up all his courage, he asked if she would like to get a slice of pie together before she returned to the city. She blushed and said yes. It turns out she had noticed him coming to watch her dance every day, and she had been wondering who the handsome man with the curly hair and round glasses was. They shared a slice of pumpkin pie while walking around the festival's closing fairgrounds that evening, and they had been happily together ever since. My father smiles fondly at the memory of the day, as does my mother, as she pours him another cup of tea. My son swings his legs against the kitchen stool and finishes the last few crumbs of his cranberry orange bread, basking in the happy warmth of the familiar story. He looks so much like his grandfather, and I tease him that one day he'll be wooing ballerinas and falling in love. Everyone laughs, and my son wrinkles his nose and reaches for some of the smaller potatoes to help his grandfather peel. They have the same warm brown eyes, curly hair, and busy hands. And I look at the two of them fondly as they help prepare what will become garlicky, buttery, mashed potatoes with salt, pepper, and parsley sprinkled on top. My daughter comes downstairs now. She's a later sleeper than the rest of us. Her favorite dish is the pumpkin pie, just like the one that my parents shared on their first date together in a small New England farming town so long ago. My sister always helps her make it. They bake a buttery, golden, flaky pie crust that's always a show-stopping end to the meal. Just as my daughter begins to pull the pie ingredients off the shelves in preparation, there's a ding-dong at the front door. It's my sister and her husband, as well as my husband, who is back from walking the dog, his arms full of firewood. Everyone takes off their coats, scarves, and boots, and we all exchange hellos, hugs, and kisses. The dog in particular wants to kiss everybody. It's so good to have everyone all together and to share the warm kitchen and holiday spirit. With the peeled potatoes boiling cheerfully in a big silver pot on the back of the stove, my husband and father carry the firewood into the dining room, my son trailing after them. We'll have a big fire later on as we eat pumpkin pie, play games, and talk after dinner. But first, we need to finish making the meal. My mother always makes the gravy out of the turkey drippings, and I have a tray of soft, buttery rolls all ready to heat up right before the meal. So there's not too much left to do. I open up the oven and check on the turkey, which is just beginning to sizzle a little, with the top starting to turn a pale, yummy, golden brown. The smell of herbs and roasting turkey fills up the kitchen, pairing nicely with the fresh, piney scent that drifts in from the living room, from the newly cut logs stacked by the fireplace. I turn back to the kitchen table, just in time to catch dusty clouds of white flour floating up in the air from my daughter and sister's homemade pie crust. They've made a mess using too much flour on the counter as they roll out the thin, buttery pastry dough. They are laughing through the fog of white flour, and I have to laugh too. They could almost be sisters themselves, with the same thick, dark hair passed down from my mother, and the same musical, lilting laugh. I know they love getting together to tackle some new project. Sure enough, they reveal that this year they have something particularly special planned for the pie. They've made a little extra dough, and they plan to cut out stars, moons, and little pumpkins from the pastry to decorate the top of the pie. We all clean up the extra flour from the crust, and then the two of them set to work dedicatedly on making their dough designs. They roll the pastry out very thin and very flat, and then, using a floured butter knife, delicately carve out whimsical shapes and patterns. They cut out small stars, some with little tails like comets, others bigger like diamonds. Then they move on to the crescent moons and the fat, detailed pumpkins with curling vines and hefty stems. They are so absorbed by creating their pastry shapes that they remind me of artists modeling a sculpture, or birds assembling a nest, working piece by piece, step by step. I can see into the dining room from my post in the kitchen, and I see my sister's husband helping my mother set the table for the meal. He carries in extra chairs to fit everyone around the table, while she lays out the silverware. Each place gets a folded napkin, a wide white china plate, a fork, a knife. There's a rhythm and an order to the table setting, and my mother and brother-in-law lay out everything peacefully together. They work like a team, moving from place to place, getting everything in order for the meal ahead. The last dish to make is the green beans. They take the least time, and I like preparing them myself. The green beans are crisp and fresh, still covered with a little dirt from the garden. I rinse them all off, and then begin to snap off the ends of each tender sprout, piling them high on the wooden cutting board. Even though the house hums with cheery catch-up talk from the whole family, I can feel myself slip into a meditative state, preparing this final Thanksgiving dish. Each step leads into another as the pile of fresh ingredients in front of me grows. Once the beans have been prepared, there are the shallots and garlic to mince, the lemon to slice. I feel calm and content preparing this last, simple dish. Everything has its time and place, and soon I can blanch the beans in a pot of boiling water, then sauté them in the butter, white wine, shallot, garlic, and lemon mixture I've prepared. I add some slivered almonds and lemon zest, and the final dish is complete. My husband comes in to check on the turkey. It's crispy, crackly, golden brown on the outside, and white and juicy on the inside. everything is finally ready. He pulls the turkey out of the oven to rest before getting the carving utensils. I let the rolls warm up quickly in its place. My sister and daughter slide their ornately decorated pumpkin pie into the oven as well, and soon the whole kitchen will be filled with the warm scent of pumpkin and spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, and cloves. We bring all the dishes to the table together and sit down to say grace before we dive in to eat. Working on a big meal like this asks something of everyone to make it all come together. It's a labor of love. The food we prepare holds our memories, our traditions, and our history together. Making it asks us all to be patient, to be kind, and to give a little of our time and energy to nourish each other. As we hold hands around the table, I look at my family, at all the generations who have gathered to share the holiday together. I'm so grateful for all that we share. Like every year, my mother says grace. For this meal that we are about to eat, and for those with whom we are about to share it, we are thankful. We squeeze each other's hands around the table and share a moment of grateful silence all together. Soon the meal will be over. The fireplace full of cheerily crackling logs, and everyone will be ready for pie and games, and then bed. My heart is filled with warmth, and I feel my heartfelt gratitude expand to all those in the room. I feel bliss and joy, and feel so thankful for the connection I have with my family, the time we can spend together, and most importantly, the love, acceptance, and care that we all show each other on this Thanksgiving Day. Good night and sweet dreams.